G'day guys, welcome back to another video. Today's topic, I'm going to be looking at the differences between dating and marriage. So let's get right into it. The first point that I want to make is that dating is about getting to know someone as a potential husband or wife. So this is the initial stage where you've decided you're going to obviously start dating, and you are really getting to know each other to see whether you will be compatible to go on and be husband and wife. So you're assessing each other's character. Are they a good person? Are they a bad person? You know, how does this person act when he is around his friends and his family? Is this person, you know, spoken well of amongst his family, amongst his friends? You know, does this person have the same desires, interests and passions as you, that you could really see yourself, you know, living the rest of your life with this person? It's really the assessing stage. And look, you know, I've had friends in the past who have come along and they've said, you know, when God brings me, you know, my potential spouse, my potential husband, you know, I've got this checklist and I've got to have it all, you know, ticked off, all these qualities, you know, God's got to, you know, bring along this particular kind of person for me, you know. And there's all these criteria that this person has to meet. You know, they have to be a Christian, they have to be a musician, they have to be X amount in height, you know, they have to be a lover of travel, they have to love animals. And, you know, they may have written this list when they were like 13 years old. But by the time God actually brought along someone, they may have got married when they were in their late 20s, early 30s. And a lot of these qualities that this person has isn't actually on the list, or it hasn't been fulfilled. You know, they may not be someone who loves to travel, but yet that was something that they really wanted, you know, God to bring along for their potential spouse. You know, that particular person they've married didn't love animals. So just be mindful that if you are going to write a list, you may have to just be open to saying, okay, God, that person, you know, doesn't love animals, but he's a Christian. You know, so that person doesn't like traveling, isn't much into traveling, but look, he's a great musician, he loves to worship God. So all these things, you know, it's okay to write these lists, but just be mindful that perhaps not everything will be fulfilled in your future spouse. So you have to be open to saying, hey, that quality, well, he doesn't have that quality, that's okay, but he's got this, so look, that's more important. So there are going to be certain qualities that you're going to find more important. And obviously when you are married, you are no longer having to assess this person, whether they're going to be the right ones for you, because you've already come to that conclusion that they are. You've already married them, you've already committed your life to them, and you've said, yes, this person's absolutely the person that, you know, God has for me. And you've gone on to marry them, you've got the same interests and hobbies and, you know, certain things. And that leads me to my next point, which is marriage is for life and dating is not. So yeah, that's obviously one of the big differences between dating and marriage. So let me give you a Bible verse which is in Mark chapter 10, and it's verses 6 to 9, and it says, "But from the beginning of creation God made them male and female. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate." And in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verse 39 it says, "A wife is bound as long as her husband lives, but if her husband has fallen asleep, she is free to be married to whom she wishes, only in the Lord." So obviously when it comes to marriage, you have made a commitment to be with that one person for the rest of your life. You've said that you are willing to be bound to that person and live the rest of your life with him or with her. You know, you've made a vow before your friends and family to say that it's going to be for better, for worse, you know, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to the exclusion of all others, that you will stand by, that you will live your life and commit your life to be with that one person for the rest of your life. And when it comes to dating, you have not committed yourself to that one person. You are still free to go off and do your own things as an individual, as a single person. You know, you're not bound to anyone. You don't have to answer to anyone even when it comes to dating. You know, you still are basically, your own person. Dating is very self-focused. It's more about, well, will this person, make me happy for the rest of my life? Will this person share my dreams and desires of doing this or doing that? So dating is also something that is very self-focused. We can tend to focus on ourselves, but when it comes to marriage, it's no longer about you. It's about the two of you coming together as one and living a life together as one. So we need to keep that in mind. Marriage is for life. I'm definitely a big believer that marriage is for life, and that it is permanent. So dating, as I've said, you are not bound to anyone at all. You're not bound to stick by that person. You're not bound in sickness and in health. Whether it's if that person was to get sick, you're not bound to stay with that person. If that person, gets into a bad financial situation, you're not bound to help that person out of that situation. You're free to go on, and you're free to move on. My next point I want to make is that sexual activity is only permitted in marriage. So that's the next one. It's not permitted in dating. I know that dating looks different for other people. I would like to think that sexual activity is not being done when you are dating as Christians. Obviously, the Bible explicitly prohibits sexual activity, outside of marriage. Let me read to you 1 Corinthians chapter 6, and we're looking at verses 18 to 20. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man does is outside the body, but he who commits fornication sins against his body. Or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit in you, whom you have of God? And are you not your own? For you are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. And Ephesians 5:3, for let fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness not be once named among you, as becomes saints. And Galatians 5:19, now the works of the flesh are clearly revealed, which are adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lustfulness. So God's solution to fornication in marriage is in 1 Corinthians chapter 7 verses 2 to 5. And it reads, but because of the fornications, let each have his own wife, and let each have her own husband. Let the husband give to the wife proper kindness, and likewise the wife also to the husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband. And likewise, also the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife. Do not deprive one another unless it is with consent for a time, so that you may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together so that Satan does not tempt you for incontinence. So the Bible explicitly prohibits sexual activity outside of marriage. So if you are a couple who is dating and you call yourselves a Christian or Christians, then really sexual activity should be something that you flee from. It's not something you should be putting yourself in a place where temptation can happen, and it can lead to obviously that kind of sin. So if you are dating and you're in this season of life and you call yourselves Christians, then really it's something that you should be fleeing from. Obviously I'm talking about sexual sins. It's something that you need to flee from, and it's something that shouldn't even come up in the Christian dating world. Now, the next point I want to make is that in marriage, wives are to submit to their husbands. So in marriage, wives are to submit to their husbands. So if we look at Ephesians chapter 5, and we're looking at verses 22 to 24, and it says, wives, be subject to your own husbands as to the Lord, for the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church, he himself being the Saviour of the body. But as the church is subject to Christ, so also the wives ought to be to their husbands in everything. in marriage, the husband is the head of the home and the wife ought to submit to her husband's authority. Now, that doesn't mean that the wife can never have her say, the wife can never have her opinion and thoughts on certain things that, are, being discussed. And it certainly doesn't mean that the husband has the right or the authority to just rule over his husband and, demand things from her. But rather it means that the wife ought to have an attitude of submission to her husband rather than one that is, self-willed or an independent attitude. That's what it means in this particular verse. Now, when it comes to dating, you are not bound to submit to the other person in any way at all. And that is because you have not committed your life to that person. You are not married. You are still in the stage where you're just really getting to know that person. So when it comes to dating, you're not bound to stay with them. You're not bound to keep on going with that person for, the next few years, months, whatever it may be. You're not bound to stay with them. If that person falls ill, you're not bound to stay with them. If that person runs into some sort of other, family dramas and tragedies, things like that, all sorts of different things that we go through in life. You're not bound to stick to that person and submit your life to that person. Now, my next point is that husbands are to lay their lives down for their wife. Okay, husbands are to lay their lives down for their wife. So in Ephesians 5 verse 25, husbands, love your wives just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. So the Bible teaches that husbands are to love their wives, sacrificially and, willingly be ready to lay down their life for their wife, just as Christ laid down his life for the church. And when you're in a dating situation, you have no obligation to lay down your life. Now, obviously, if you're dating someone, and especially if you've been with them for, a long period of time, you would think that that person would, actually care about you. But they don't have to lay down their life for you. They don't have to support you in any way. There's no obligation there. Obviously as a girl, we want to feel like if we're in a situation where we're dating someone or seeing someone, we want to feel like, hey, that person, actually cares about me, they love me, they do really like me, they do really enjoy spending time with me. And when it comes to, certain things in life and you go through a really hard or difficult time, you might fall into sickness and, end up in hospital or something, you would hope that that person would be there for you, but at the end of the day, there's not really that obligation that they have to be there. And these are all things that you've got to consider when you are dating someone. I know non-Christians who have dated for, years, and they have, they've fallen ill, they have ended up in hospital, and that person, that, boyfriend has stuck by them and they've gone on to get married. At times the marriage unfortunately doesn't last, but I have seen it that, when tragedy comes and you're not married but you've been together for quite a long period of time, that the guy has stuck by the girl. It's really something to keep in mind when you are looking to, be in a relationship, whether you're looking to start a relationship, whether you're in one, these are the differences between dating and marriage. Anyway, I hope this video has been informative and that it's helped you. I do hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave me a comment below. I love to read your comments, and you'll see me again in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye bye.